So as I said, our first guest is Anita from CAFOD. CAFOD, of course, is an important part of parishes and schools across the country, helping us to help people in the developing world. And Anita joins me on the line now. Hello, Anita.
Hi, nice to see you.
It's good to see you too. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you? How's lockdown and so on being for you so far? Is it all right?
Everything's okay. Yes, we're in a very fortunate position, I feel, and I thank God every day for all the blessings that we have. Yeah, I know it's not easy for people, so yeah, very grateful to be here and to talk to you tonight.
It's good to have you. So first, just tell us a little bit about the role that you have with CAFOD, what exactly it is that you do at CAFOD at the moment.
Absolutely. So I work on CAFOD's young adult engagement. So my official job title is Young Adult Program Accompanier, which means I work with the 18 to 35-year-old audience specifically, and I try to help teams across CAFOD look for exciting new ways to engage people who fall within that age bracket, much like you're doing, Kieran, with this lovely YouTube initiative of First Fridays. So yeah, that's my job.
Great. Okay. So it sounds really interesting. It must be quite fun, quite rewarding at times. But so a question we ask nearly all our guests is sort of, were you always a Catholic, and what was life like growing up?
I was always a Catholic, yes. I've always been a Catholic. My family are from South India, from Chennai, if anyone knows. And yeah, both my parents are Catholic. Probably everyone in my extended family is Catholic as well. So I was very much raised a Catholic. And, when I was young, I used to go to Mass every week. I usually say I was taken to Mass every week because, that was just what we did. It was part of the norm. But I think as I've gotten older, moved away from home and things, yeah, my Catholic faith started to have a lot more meaning to me. I guess, I've lived all over the world. I've grown up in Hong Kong, I've grown up in Dubai, I've grown up in the UK. I've frequently visited family in Chennai as well. So I feel like in all those places that I've been, my Catholic faith has been one thing that's been a common feature. And anywhere that I go in the world, it's something that I can find in people, in places. So yeah, I've grown to appreciate my faith as I've gotten older.
Fantastic. Yeah. So it sounds like you had a really sort of multicultural kind of upbringing and a sort of a multicultural experience of the church as well. And so you first got involved with kind of overseas development sort of stuff quite a few years ago. What was the first country that you worked in then?
So this was actually straight out of university. So I went to university in Newcastle and I was quite involved in the university chaplaincy there. And that's where I got to learn a little bit more about international development work and how to put your faith into action. So I actually went on a gap year with an international development agency. And as part of that gap year, we had a small trip to the Democratic Republic of Congo. And for me, at the age of 21, going to the DRC was quite an eye-opening experience, even for somebody who had traveled a lot when I was younger as well, and to an extent felt that I'd had an experience of development in things that I've seen in places around the world. So yeah, whilst I was in the DRC, we specifically focused on looking at projects to do with governance and HIV and AIDS. So a lot of the work that I saw included elements of education within grassroots communities. So with the governance projects, it was educating people about the rights that they had on a very local level, educating people about the power structures, and how to create change in their local areas. So that for me was really inspiring to see real community action, people having their voices heard and making a difference in their own communities. And it was a similar thing with the HIV/AIDS projects as well. There was a lot of education work done around the stigma of AIDS, and how people can rebuild their lives after having contracted the virus, and break down that stigma and show that they're living quite positive, inspiring lives as well. So it was just really interesting to see how grassroots community projects were able to identify the issues that were within their community and think about practical steps towards resolving those issues. So yeah, that was my very first experience.
Gosh, and there's a lot there, and it's quite a lot of responsibility almost to be involved with that sort of thing at quite a young age as well. But it must be, I think there's sort of almost a common thread there of kind of people's dignity, people having their rights, and people being respected as people, in all sorts of ways. That's really interesting. So you spent time in the DRC, and you spent time in other countries as well?
I have. So I know I've mentioned India already, and I've mentioned India as having visited there when I was younger. But I did, again, after this DRC experience, after working a little stint as a school chaplain, I did go and take a longer term voluntary role with the Salesians of Don Bosco. And I went to India, to South India, to the state of Karnataka, and worked in Bangalore on projects that were seeking to rehabilitate street children. So that was everything from, rescuing children from railway lines, from living on the streets, to trying to get them reunited with parents, reunited with family, to all the counselling services that are offered in and around that, working with Childline, who the Salesians of Don Bosco set up in the state of Karnataka and rolled out across India. Yes, it was really an eye-opening experience as well to get to see sort of how something like rehabilitating street children is such a complex issue, from the work that you do with children directly, to all the advocacy work that needs to be done at government level, at intergovernmental level. So that was, again, another really eye-opening experience that I've had. And I feel privileged to have had these experiences. It's partly, what's brought me to work for an agency like CAFOD, to try and inspire people to think about acting in similar ways.
Sure, yeah, that's really amazing, yeah. And there's so much, it's sort of multi-layered sort of approach to kind of helping people as well. It's not just sort of giving them things there and then, it's sort of securing stuff with government and so on for the future. So that's, it's really remarkable. So what do you kind of find motivates you in this kind of work? Because I think it must take a lot of sort of personal motivation to work in really difficult sort of circumstances like those. And what do you think kind of motivates you to work for social action and work in that particular field?
That's a really good question. I think I'm just really interested in trying to understand the situations that people live in. I think it's something that we're called to do as Catholics, as Christians, as human beings, to have a deeper level of understanding of each other, and particularly where there are people who are in some kind of in some kind of need. It's something that I'm just really interested in trying to understand why that need is there, and what we can do, what role do I have in terms of responding to that need. Is there anything I can do? Is there Is there anyone I know who can help? Can I use my voice in some way to help a situation? You're right, it is not always easy. And sometimes there's this sort of constant question in your head of, am I making a difference? Or, you know, how can I make a difference in people's lives? But I think that first of all, starting to understand a situation that another person is living in is the very first step to understanding how you can respond to that need. So
Sure.
yeah, does that answer?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what part would you say your faith plays in kind of in your work?
I certainly think that as a Catholic, that's what we're called to do. We're called to have an understanding. Pope Francis has been talking about this more and more recently, about, you know, having a culture of encounter, and really starting to have some kind of human understanding of each other. So I certainly think that sort of theme runs through my motivations for wanting to work in this sector, but also I think I strive to do that outside of my professional life as well. You know, really try and put myself in somebody else's shoes. And I appreciate that it's even harder to do when we're in lockdown as well. So I find that that's the challenge, and sometimes I wonder, there must be, if Pope Francis is still talking to us about human fraternity and solidarity, and having this culture of encounter within the context of a global pandemic, then, you know, there must be something that God is calling us to do in terms of this pandemic response as well.
Sure. We're having a few troubles with your picture, but I think your sound is still coming through because I can hear your answers.
Okay.
But anyway, we're coming. We've only got one more thing to ask you anyway, which is, there's some things that CAFOD are doing at the moment, some campaigns and so on. What can we get involved with at the moment?
Oh, what wonderful! Well, there are two things that I'd love for people listening into this call to get involved with. So firstly, as everyone knows, Lent is coming up, and we have a Walk for Water challenge. So it's on our website, cafod.org.uk/walk for water. And we're encouraging people to walk 10,000 steps a day and to raise sponsorship for this, as they walk in solidarity with people who struggle, who have to walk miles and miles and 10 hours a day, even to get water for themselves, where water is scarce. So Walk for Water, that's something that you can get involved with now. And the other thing that I've touched on a little bit is the pandemic and this kind of global response to the pandemic. So our latest campaign is called Reclaim Our Common Home, and you can find that on our website as well. So this year, the UK is playing host to two major political meetings, the G7 summit in the summer and the global climate talks taking place in November. So we've got a petition that is live now, asking the UK government, asking the Prime Minister to play a leading role in ensuring that temperature rises are kept below 1.5 degrees, so that this climate crisis doesn't get even more out of hand. So we would love for people to go online and sign that petition and look at for more ways to get involved in the campaign through the year.
Great, thank you. Anita, it's been really fascinating hearing some of your experiences. That is all we've got time for with you this evening, but thanks very much for joining us, and
Thanks.
Hopefully we'll catch up with you again another time.
Thank you.
So thanks, Anita. Now, Anita mentioned the Walk for Water campaign, and this is a little taster of why that's so important.
kaado business xageeda fara xageeda barandaya wangu tiral تمايله تعبي نقطة اللايتا حتى كوي يوم بسمعتي عاقو أنا إلنا نيمانو مانا كيني يختموا به نبا كادو عاقو قرع جدا كيني يختموا به يميك عبد الله يكرم لباتنا كيسدو إلنا نيم إثيوبيا عفار كله لا يتعبلينو كادو كلا تاني مستعبي ورسنو فدينتنكو كم كمينا حبيتنا حساب لنا